Today, we're diving into Aharon Appelfeld's novel, Tzili, The Story of a Life. And just so you know, this is not the kind of war story you might be expecting. Instead of focusing on, big historical events, it zooms way in on the raw, quiet survival of a single forgotten girl. It's a story that asks a really powerful question. What does it actually mean to be human when everything has been stripped away from you?
The novel opens with this one haunting sentence, and it works as both a warning and, in a way, an invitation. The author is basically telling us right from the start that what we're about to hear is going to be tough, maybe even ugly. But the message is pretty clear. Because it happened, it has to be told. And that single line just casts a long, dark shadow over everything that follows.
So let's meet Tzili Kraus. In her large, poor, and constantly stressed-out family, she's practically invisible. While her parents and all her siblings are totally obsessed with academic achievement, Tzili is quiet, she's neglected, she's just a creature that exists in the background, always seen as a failure.
And the contrast couldn't be more stark. Her siblings, you see, they live in this world of books and ambition. They're studying for exams, memorizing dates. Tzili's world, it's the kitchen sink. It's chores. To her family, who values intellect above pretty much everything else, she is the ultimate disappointment. They just dismiss her as a dull-witted Jewish girl without any brains.
Then the war breaks out. Her family flees in a total panic. And their solution for Tzili is just devastating. The very things that made her an outcast, her supposed simple-mindedness, are suddenly twisted into a kind of protection. They figured no one would bother to harm her, so they leave her behind to guard their property with this hollow promise. We'll come back for you later.
That very night, soldiers invade and destroy the town, and Tzili's forced to run into the countryside. This escape, it marks the start of a huge transformation. As she runs, she leaves the whole world of family and school and rules behind. She's entering this primal state where survival depends on one thing and one thing only: instinct.
This line just captures her new reality perfectly. The world isn't something to be explained by books or teachers anymore. It has to be experienced directly, through her senses with no filter. She is completely alone, forced to navigate a world that is both terrifying and, in a really strange way, completely liberating.
So, in this new world, human reason just gives way to animal need. Hunger and thirst. Those are her only guides now. She doesn't think, she just acts on instinct, like chewing a raw cornstalk just to get some liquid. Her survival isn't about what she knows anymore, but purely what her body is screaming for.
And Appelfeld does not shy away from the brutal physical realities of her journey. Here, Tzili gets her period for the very first time, alone in a field, with absolutely no one to explain what is happening to her body. Her own body becomes another source of terror and confusion. She's literally maturing into a woman in the middle of total desolation, and it's a process that is both natural and just horrifyingly isolating.
But, surviving in the wild is one thing. Surviving among people is another. To navigate this new landscape of towns and villages, Tzili needs a new strategy. She understands deep down that she can't be Tzili Kraus, the Jewish girl. To stay alive, she has to become someone else entirely.
Her chance comes when a blind peasant mistakes her for a daughter of Maria, a local prostitute with a pretty notorious reputation. Without even a moment's hesitation, Tzili just says yes. And just like that, the name Maria, a symbol of shame in her old life, becomes her shield in this new one.
This borrowed identity leads her through a whole series of harrowing encounters. First, there's Katerina, another prostitute who is both kind and violently abusive. Then, she finds shelter with an old couple, but the wife beats her mercilessly, convinced she's cleansing a bastard born in sin. In every single situation, the name Maria's daughter saves her from being seen as Jewish, but it condemns her to a completely different kind of torment.
After she flees that abusive couple, Tzili is almost completely detached from her past. She's been Maria's daughter for so long that the real Tzili Kraus is buried deep, deep inside. But then, she meets someone who threatens to shatter this whole carefully constructed shield.
A stranger, a man named Mark, appears out of nowhere. He looks at her and asks this simple but devastating question. He sees right through her peasant disguise. For the first time in years, someone isn't seeing Maria's daughter. They're seeing a fellow Jew.
And he knows because of the sound of home. He speaks her mother tongue, a language she hasn't heard or spoken in years. The language of her family, of her childhood.
The words themselves, that familiar accent. It all starts to stir something that's been dormant inside her, reconnecting her to the self she fought so hard to erase.
And in response, she finally says the words. For years, she has lived as someone else. By speaking her own name, she's starting to reclaim a piece of herself, no matter how painful it is. This is her very first step back from the wild.
Their time together is this brief, fragile season of shared humanity. At first, it's just practical. She gathers food, he builds a shelter. But as the seasons change, their connection deepens into something much more complex. They become lovers, just two isolated souls clinging to each other. But Mark is haunted by his past, and his despair just grows and grows, leading him to a fateful decision. And so, their fragile little world, built against all odds, begins to break. The novel's start-conclusion brings us right back to its core themes: abandonment, and this question of what's left after so much loss. Mark becomes obsessed with conquering his fear. He's convinced he has to go down to the plains to inspect the terrain. He totally ignores Tzili's pleas, seeing this as some act of courage that'll make him a free man. His final words to her are filled with this strange, determined confidence.
The book states it with brutal simplicity. Mark did not return. Just like her family vanished from her life, now he's gone too. The silence is just absolute. And Tzili, who had only just started to reclaim her own name, is left completely alone once more.
And this leaves us with the central question of the whole novel. Tzili survives, yes, but at what cost? She has endured abandonment, brutality, and just staggering loss. To stay alive, she had to erase who she was. Appelfeld offers no easy answers here. He leaves us to confront the silence and just wonder, what is truly left of a person when their memory, their name, and their entire world have been wiped away?